Good evening. I'm Lawrence O'Donnell, and this is tonight's Last Word, live from Los Angeles. No one got fired in the White House today. No one forcefully escorted out of the building by security. Every cabinet member who had a job at breakfast today still had that same job at sundown today because the President of the United States spent his 104th day playing golf. And so far, the golfiest president of all time has not actually fired anyone while playing golf, except possibly some caddies who are not on the White House payroll. Many inside the White House report this week saying that the White House staff has moved beyond worry to near panic that the President of the United States is now completely unleashed. That is to say, somehow more unleashed than he already was, and it's all about the woman who had to suffer the worldwide humiliation of a public Trump kiss on her way out the door yesterday. Watch how natural this is. That was Donald Trump reduced to sign language because he needed to keep that far away, a great distance away from reporters, so that he would not be able to hear any of their shouted questions about Stormy Daniels or anything having to do with the governing of the United States of America. The White House did not release a translation of the sign language. I, for one, have no idea what it means to stand beside a person and just point at her repeatedly. So please feel free to share any of your suggested sign language translations with us on Twitter. The woman the president was pointing at is the youngest White House communications director in history, and not the most incompetent, only because she was preceded in the job by the unforgettable Anthony Scaramucci, who was the most unleashed White House communications director in history, as well as the most incompetent. The New York Times reported today there is a palpable worry among those in the West Wing about who the president will now confide in and how many other people might be able to occasionally pull him back now that Ms. Hicks is gone. Several reports have indicated this week that White House Chief of Staff John Kelly has lost whatever confidence the president had in him and is unable, therefore, to exert even the minimal amount of influence over the president that he might have had in the past. According to Politico today, the president announced that he was firing the Secretary of Veterans Affairs in, quote, a snap decision that surprised his own chief of staff and knocked the government's second largest agency deeper into disarray. White House Chief of Staff John Kelly had spoken with David Shulkin by phone Wednesday morning, reassuring the now former VA secretary that he wouldn't be fired by tweet that afternoon. Hours later, Kelly had to phone Shulkin again, telling him plans had changed. David Shulkin's firing was so chaotic and of a sudden that it is possible that Donald Trump didn't even know that Donald Trump was going to do it earlier in the day when Donald Trump spoke with David Shulkin.
When's the last time you spoke to him?
I spoke to the president yesterday.
What was that conversation like?
We spoke about the progress that I was making, what I needed to do from a policy perspective to make sure that we were fixing the issues in VA.
Wait, that's before you were fired?
That's correct.
You spoke to him. He made no mention of the fact that he was about to terminate you?
That's correct.
And then you found out via tweet?
Right before that, the Chief of Staff, Kelly, gave me a call, which I appreciated, gave me a heads up, and so, but that was much after the phone call.
The Trump administration has always been choosing from the bottom of the Republican barrel of talent, and there is no possibility of that changing. According to a report in the Washington Post today, the Post reports that the Presidential Personnel Office, which is responsible for recruiting and vetting thousands of Trump administration political appointees, is being run by, quote, a college dropout with arrests for drunken driving and bad checks, and a Marine Corps reservist with arrests for assault, disorderly conduct, fleeing an officer. The Post reports that the Personnel Office, quote, became something of a social hub where young staffers from throughout the administration stopped by to hang out on couches and smoke electronic cigarettes, Leaders hosted happy hours last year in their offices. In January, they played a drinking game in the office called icing to celebrate the deputy director's 30th birthday. Icing involves hiding a bottle of Smirnoff Ice, a flavored malt liquor, and demanding that the person who discovers it, in this case the deputy director, guzzle it, thereby bringing a more precise definition than ever to the term drunk with power. But the governing style of the Trump administration, a more serious version, is always a more serious version of drunk with power. This week, we learned that Team Trump will begin detaining pregnant, undocumented immigrant women, thanks to a Trump executive order. It will add a question on citizenship status to the census that state attorneys general warned could lower immigrants voting and cause a population undercount. And it will roll back rules requiring cars to be cleaner and more efficient. Donald Trump is golfing when most of these decisions are made and only becomes aware of them if they are mentioned on Fox News, and only approves of them when they are mentioned approvingly on Fox News. The Trump government from the start has behaved like a marauding horde, passing a bottle of Smirnoff Ice as they reach to the bottom of the right-wing barrel of bad policy ideas and try to turn another one into the law of the land. Hope Hicks never stopped a minute of that madness, and John Kelly is known to have encouraged some of it, especially the worst cruelties the Trump administration has inflicted on immigrants. Each of them might, at some point, have talked the president out of an utterly insane tweet. But what Donald Trump has proven from the start, with his 2 White House chiefs of staff and his 5 White House communications directors, is that he has been unleashed since day one in the presidency, but is always capable of getting much, much worse, and always does.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.